You've got me now.
Yes, we've got you.
Oh. Okay, so thank you for bearing with me there. So we're just going to start with a little bit of music to start with, just to get us in the mood this evening. Okay, I find it sometimes really nice to, there's little interludes, that little piece is actually called interlude, and just helps us to center before we begin. So this is a sonic journey tonight. There's lots of information I just can't wait to share with you. A little bit of context and background to me. I've been working within the field of holistic health for around about 30 years, and I've been working with therapeutic sound since 1994, when I basically was working in I had a career in advertising, and as well as sort of trying to pursue my heart work, which was my therapy work. And I burnt out, had to basically leave my career, and then I began to experiment with sound therapy. But basically at that time there was nowhere to train to be a sound therapist, nowhere that was officially recognised, and you know, as members of the Bcma will know that you know, the having some kind of representing body is so important for people out there working in the field. So there wasn't anywhere that was registered to be a training provider for therapeutic sound. So I began investigating sound therapy. I travelled all over the world and worked with various different indigenous people and traditional methods and systems, and then came back to the UK and started putting some of those techniques into practice until I was able to feel really comfortable with a particular method, which I'm going to share this evening, which is now known as the BAST method. BAST stands for the British Academy of Sound Therapy. We were the first school for sound therapy that was recognised. The body that we were recognised by was the Institute for Complementary and Natural Medicine in the beginning, although I've also had a very long relationship with the Bcma as well over the years. So let's begin. That's a little bit of potted history, really. I'll share a little bit more as I go on about my research and background and so on, and obviously we've got questions at the end. Okay, so let's go on. So today we're going to be discussing what is the BAST method of sound therapy, why is sound therapy so effective, the 5 R's method in therapy, which we'll get onto later, how to use sound therapy for yourself or therapeutic sound for yourself, and then new innovations in the field. So this is the latest cutting edge stuff and research that's been going on. So first of all, what is the BAST method of sound therapy? So it's sound that is applied in a specific way, and also it's there are tried and tested therapeutic effects. So we've done research over at least the last 10 years looking at honing the method of therapeutic sound. Our method is based more on cognitive neuroscience and sound and music psychology, and on traditional methods of using therapeutic sound for trancing. So we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So we also use a reflective technique known as the Cooper-Sachs 5 R's model of experiential processing. It's a bit of a mouthful. So we call it the 5 R's for short. It's basically is a framework which you can use, doesn't matter what therapy or modality or whereabouts you're applying it in your life. So, for example, the 5 R's method has been used in prisons, in schools, as well as alongside complementary therapy approaches, and obviously in our case, sound therapy. It was a technique that basically emerged from the need to have something that enables a safe space when you're exploring yourself and your own healing journey and your own process. But it's very person-centered. So we'll talk about it in a bit more depth. This is kind of just sort of introducing basically the BAST method. Therapeutic sound in our method helps to increase self-awareness, and a lot of this is done through the method of the way the sound works with the system. So the way the sound affects the brain, and in turn how it affects body and emotions and the thought system. So it increases self-awareness, and as a result it may improve health and well-being. So and it has vast we've seen benefits on many different levels over the years. So again, when we get onto the research part of the talk this evening, I'll be able to cover a little bit more specifically. So first of all, let's just take a little interlude and listen to some sounds. So if you have any headphones that you'd like to put on, if you haven't already got them on, or something that you'd like to, if you need to get hold of some, we can wait for a few seconds or so. It's up to you. If not, then just adjust your speakers until you get the right volume. Okay, so you may want to close your eyes. It's only going to be 3 minutes, so it's just a little taster. So just bringing your awareness back to the space. Okay, so I might just have to do this by show of hands. Did anybody begin to see colours behind their closed eyes? Just raise a hand if you did. Did anybody, yeah, okay. Did anybody begin to feel the edges of their body soften? So did you feel that you became more soft? Did anybody, how many people had their eyes closed throughout the whole process? Okay, all right. So this may explain possibly why the effects are slightly different. When you have your eyes open, then you're engaging more of the conscious mind. If you have your eyes closed, then obviously it's easier to go within a little more. It was only 3 minutes and the sound quality may not have been as good as it could have been. depending on your speakers, but that's okay, don't worry. This is just a little experiment over the airwaves. So I can go on to talk a little bit more about the effects that we noticed with the research. And obviously, please ask me some questions and share your experiences at the end. So take some notes and do ask me at the end. Okay. All right. So did anybody during that period of sound feel anything physically in their body anywhere? Yeah, and can you point with your hand roughly where it was, if it's somewhere where we can see? Was it anywhere particularly physically in the body? So, okay, so around about the collarbone, just below the collarbones, shoulders, chest area. Okay. Did anybody feel heavier or unhappy or fearful during that period of sound? No? Yeah? Okay. All right. So one, possibly, a little bit there. Okay. So let's just do another little experiment. I'd like you to close your eyes and I'll just take you through a little visualization exercise for a moment. Okay. So I'd like you to bring your mind to a time in your life where you felt amazing. It could have been an achievement that you had, which was particularly good for you. It could have been the first time you fell in love, or a particular event where you felt incredible. And rather than attaching to the story at this stage, just feel the feelings in the body. And then taking a deep breath in, multiply that feeling as much as you can by 10, 20, and so on. Just allow it to radiate through your whole being. And now I'd like you to draw your mind to a point recently, something perhaps that you saw on the news or in the newspaper that disturbed you, something that wasn't so good. And just notice how you feel when you think those thoughts. And now on the next breath, I'd like you to go back to the first visualization where you felt amazing in your life, where something happened, and breathe that right through your body again, all the way through your skin and out. And then when you're ready, just coming back to the room. Okay, so with first visualization, when you felt amazing, or you recalled the time in your life which was particularly a wonderful time for you, Our research showed that most people will use words like they felt lighter and brighter and more expanded. They felt less tension in their body. Can we relate to that? Anybody, show of hands, felt that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And the opposite, when they drew their mind to the thing that they'd seen in the newspaper or on the television that wasn't so good, is that they gave us words like closed and small, dark. So it's almost like the contraction, the opposite polar end of expansion. Can anybody relate to that? Yeah, seeing some nodding heads here. Okay, all right. As well as that, with the first visualization, many people felt that they got taller, they felt taller and more expanded and freer in the body, less muscle tension, and the opposite with the second visualization. And as well as that, people sometimes actually felt physical pain in the body in certain places where there may have been an injury or where they know they hold their stress. So if you may have felt with the second visualization, maybe your neck and shoulders tensed up, or maybe you felt it around your chest, maybe that was the same point at which the sound resonated in your body when we were playing the Himalayan bowls earlier. So basically this model of the 5 R's illustrates how we process our experience as humans. And it's just a model to help to illustrate that. So we've got 5 R's here. It's a non-linear model. All of the elements are interchangeable, and you can go from resonance to resistance to release and back to resonance again. It doesn't not necessarily follow a particular process. So basically, the resonance is experienced as a relationship between you and another thing. So it can be you and your thoughts, it can be you and another, so another person, and often we use the expression, or we're on the same wavelength, to describe where there's a connection or a relationship between another person. But also there's a resonance within ourselves. When we think positive thoughts, it creates that expansion. So it's experienced as an expansion. Now this is actually based on physics, sort of the underlying, although this is a kind of, if you like, a psychological model of experience, human experience. It's also really, so the fundamental nature of it is also can apply to physics. And of course sound waves as well create resonance in the body. So there's sort of all different connections that we're bringing together with this model. Hopefully we'll get to unpack it a bit later. So when you're thinking, when the mind goes to something that's positive in our lives, very often what happens is the body and the emotions follow with this feeling of expansion or resonance. Okay, so at a fundamental level, it's telling us there's a connection that's something that's connecting us to that expansion of energy and that expanded feeling. So of course, when we're looking at spiritual health, for example, which is something that's very important, it's about creating that connection or relationship with something that's greater than us. And sound can really help us to achieve that. So the second visualization was resistance, and that actually signifies separation. So it's the antithesis of connection. So it's something that comes in the way of flow in our lives. So as a result, what happens is the body actually responds by feeling contracted and by feeling small, perhaps by feeling pain, emotional pain, physical pain, and other thoughts which don't serve us. So other thoughts which help to just reinforce the separation rather than the connection. So I'm just going to go to the two outer bands at the moment before we go a little bit further into the model. So when I invited you to think the thoughts about being this wonderful experience that you had, some of you have already put your hands up and said, yes, I felt resonance in my system. Some of you, when you felt when you thought about something on the news, experienced that resistance, something that came in the way of flow. When you went back to the first visualization, so I asked you to go back to the positive memory again, many of the much of the resistance that you felt would have released. Okay, so this is our release. So it can be that release follows our thought change. Also, sometimes people, when we're working with sound and obviously with other modalities that you work with, you may well find that some of your clients just go spontaneously, will go to release without maybe even knowing where that release has come from. All right, so it's like I say, this is not a linear model. You don't have to experience resistance to then experience release. So the fourth R is really about reflection. So this is basically being self-reflective, which is something that's really talked about a lot in complementary medicines now, and not just in complementary medicine, but in nursing and in teaching and in many other areas of the workplace, corporate work as well. Being self-reflective, which is being able to see ourselves from outside looking on, so being an objective, a compassionate witness to our process, if you like, signifies self-awareness, and it's a great potential for learning more about ourselves. So when we're working with sound, we're actually asking our clients after a treatment, we'll be asking them, okay, so what was going on for you? Where were there periods of resistance? Where were there periods of release? And then we're helping through this model just to go a little bit more deeply into what that might mean for that person. So sound therapy, as defined by the Therapeutic Sound Association, is the combination of the sound plus some kind of therapeutic framework, which helps people to go more deeply into their process. This is the framework that we use. Responsibility is the fifth R, and it's one of the most important ones. It's absolutely key to the therapeutic process, both for the client and the therapist. Is that in our model, we encourage the responsibility of our thoughts and our feelings as being ours to have. So in that, just to give you an example, often in the world we'll say, oh, you made me angry, but in our model, when we're looking at that, we're thinking, well, actually I'm feeling anger, so I'm seeing the anger in myself through my interaction with the other. Okay, so it's just about, so what is my anger telling me about me in this moment, rather than being projected onto another person. So it may be that the interaction did enable us to learn a lot from our anger in that moment. So that's a great point of transformation for us, and it signifies empowerment when we take responsibility for our thoughts and our feelings being ours to have. So in the center of the model is human flourishing, which is, it was a concept that was first documented. It was Aristotle who talked a lot about human flourishing, and it's really about being the best we can be. So it's a little bit like, if you know Maslow, self-actualization, which is at the top of the pyramid there with Maslow. It's very similar. It's being the best that we can be. So when we're actually, the idea is that when we're actually noticing, we're reflecting on what's going on in our systems at any given time. We're noticing resistance, we're noticing resonance, we're releasing resistance using the reflective framework, which then enables us to experience more resonance. And so it's, like I say, it's this whole lovely cyclical model. Do take notes if you want to ask me about it later. So the sound, just to sum up, the BAST method of sound therapy is the sound plus this framework to help to make sense of the relationship that the sound is having in our system. Okay, so passive sessions, how is it applied? Passive sessions. So we have passive and active sessions. I'm going to talk about the passive first. So sound playing in a specific way induces an altered state of consciousness. Now, this is something that's been happening since, since the dawn of humankind. There's a lot of evidence in Neolithic burial chambers and so on, and gathering places, that sound was used. And in those spaces, if it was used, like I say, archaeology, acoustic archaeology suggests that sound was used in those spaces through various different, evidence of parts of the wall being beaten, for example, with sticks or bones maybe. And when sound was used, that would have induced trance in that space. They basically bounced sound around the chamber, and they could see that actually if you were in that space for long enough, you'd have gone into some kind of trance. A lot of traditional people that I've worked with in various different areas of the world also had a traditional system of trancing with sound, with drums, or with chanting, or with instruments, such as Himalayan bowls, for example. So when we're working in passive sessions, our method has been honed through our research to maximise as much as we can at the moment. Obviously, it's ongoing research and development. Maximise an ASC, or altered state of consciousness. And in this altered state, there's all kinds of positive health benefits that occur. Okay. All right, so what is, I'm not sure why that's jumping backwards and forwards. I'm clicking on the forward arrow, but anyway. What is an altered state of consciousness, or ASC? So basically, an altered state of consciousness is going when the brain waves drop into a very low state. So that could be alpha or alpha theta, or even theta. But just very briefly, the brain doesn't just go into one state. It's running concurrent brainwave frequencies all the time. So, there are always different parts of the brain that are in, varying different frequencies. But what it means is that across the neocortex, the predominant brainwave frequency might be alpha or alpha theta. And there are particular states of being that we experience when we're in those brainwave states. So that's one of the reasons why I asked, if anybody is actually seeing colours behind their eyes, their closed eyes, for example. That's one of the first experiences that we have when when our brainwaves are starting to drop into an ASC. The second is that losing of the edges, or that melting, softening feeling that people often report. But usually it takes about 5 minutes, minimum 5 minutes with closed eyes to start to achieve that. Some people who meditate on a regular basis can achieve it quicker. But, on average, it's about 5 minutes. So that little piece of Himalayan bowls is about 3. So it was a long shot, shall we say. But it was worth doing, I hope. Okay, so let's have a look. So basically what we've got here on the right hand side is a picture of some metronomes. This is, I haven't got the video to play you, but if you go onto YouTube, if you're interested, and just put in metronome entrainment, you'll actually see the clip. So basically, again, we're talking about physics. All of these pendulums are set at exactly the same, they're basically all the same weights. I don't even know what the real word, proper technical term is for it, but they're all basically swaying at different rates, but they're weighted in the same way. As you can see, the little weights are all down the center of the stem. And then after a few minutes, the metronomes actually begin to come into sync. And that's because of something called sympathetic resonance and entrainment. So back to resonance again, right? So it's because there's a relationship between the metronomes, there's a shared energy that goes through the board that they're sitting on. It starts to bring things into line with itself. Okay, and again, this is what happens to us at a fundamental level when we're listening to sound therapy, and when we're obviously doing other work as well that creates resonance. Okay, so basically what happens is the system, the brain, begins to come into resonance with the tones, with the sound, and it's all to do with the way we've evolved over millions of years, you know, as a series of hominids, if you like, but more recently as Homo sapiens, is how our brain is wired to respond to sound. So sympathetic resonance is one of the laws of physics which actually enable this to happen. Entrainment is the other. So what's happening when we listen to the therapeutic sound is especially when we listen to music which has long elongated tones. So it's not music that's chopped up into lots of little pieces, like like a piece of Mozart, for example, would have very complex melodic patterns and rhythms and so on. But when you don't have those little chunks of sound in the form of music to hold on to, the brain lets go. And that enables us to go into this altered state of consciousness. So you'll find that pretty much every traditional way of using sound for trancing will have either a regular beat to it, it will have low pitches. So for example, you know, you go up to a mountain in Tibet, you come across a temple, you open the doors and there's monks sitting around chanting, and you can bet your bottom dollar that they're not going to be going Om. They're going to be using a lovely deep Om, deep long tone, because low pitches relax the system. So it's low pitches, regular rhythm, and long sustain. So those are the main qualities. So if you're using therapeutic sound with yourself or with your clients in a therapeutic space, then those are the ingredients you want to look for to help, just to really help to relax. I'm aware this is we're going at a little bit of a pace because I want to leave plenty of time for questions, and also this is a vast subject. And so I want to give enough to whet the appetite, and maybe, who knows, in the future, maybe there'll be a follow-up. So how I do it for myself is to use these long tones. You can choose a playlist, all right? So you can get on Spotify, and you think about that magical formula: sustain, pitch and tempo. Okay. So, you know, if you get something that's got a regular beat to it, so trance dance music, you know, the rave music, for example, that was totally not by accident that they used that music for long enough. People will dance all night, you know, to that music. It's the ancient art of trance dance come back into the 21st century. And lovely long tones as well. So I was just going to say, let's do a test. We are all natural sound healers and sound therapists. So if we were going out for an evening out with our friends, and we wanted to put on some music to really get us in the mood, what would you choose? Would you choose some Zen monk chanting or dolphin whale music, or would you choose something more up-tempo and dancey? So hands up for the up-tempo and dancey music. Yeah, okay. So we choose music to get us in the mood. It's right. So we know how to do this. It's innate within us, based on our you know, the way we're programmed to respond to sound, and it's a lot more there's more complex to it as well. But that's basically it. We choose our mood music. Humming in a low pitch is really good for very deep relaxation. It's also good for physical pain in the body as well. Drumming. So you don't even have to have a drum. If you've got any clients with anxiety, for example, or people who are who you find are always jumping into the future, so they're in the what ifs, you know, and they're not in the present moment, or they're in the past. There might be guilt or shame or regret or anger. Then a really good tip is just a heartbeat, a lub-dub heartbeat. Bum, bum. Bum, bum. Bum, bum. And you don't even have to have a drum, but that will bring somebody into the moment, and it will calm the system down, and they can count. So you can lub-dub, 2, 3, lub-dub, 2, 3 for a minute, and then extend it to 4, lub-dub, 2, 3, 4, lub-dub, and the system will entrain to that and begin to kind of slow down. So that's a really good tip. Or get a Himalayan singing bowl. Get one for yourself. A nice low pitch, remember, because low pitches relax. Okay, so just very briefly then, this is the research we used. Hello, there you are. Himalayan singing bowls, gongs to crystal bowls, and finishing with therapeutic percussion. That particular method was used in a sound bath. We had 2 sound baths. It was identical. The sound bath was actually recorded, and then that recording was given online to people. So we wanted to compare the difference between live and recorded sound. So what was the effect on consciousness? So how did it affect the altered state? Was there one, so was one more powerful than the other, and how, and what the therapeutic benefits were? So the data was analysed by a test known as a chi-square, and that gauges significance, so statistical significance. And we found basically lots of statistical significance across the following domains. So these were the domains that were affected the most: physical relaxation, imagery, ineffability. So basically people just found it was so out of their experience, was so out of the world, that they couldn't possibly put it into words. So that is a sign of a very deep altered state, when people score highly on that particular domain. Transcendence of time and space. So that's basically that, you know, some people thought that the sound bath lasted 5 minutes and others an hour. So, you know, they lost their whole sense of time and where they were in space. So people felt they were floating, or that their bodies, they had so much resonance that their bodies just felt like they'd expanded, and they really lost their edges, if you like. Imagery became quite complex, so anything from just gentle washing colours behind the eyes to very, very vivid visual imagery, some of which had very specific, poignant meanings for people. Positive mood states, so many people remarked that they felt a lot like they'd been uplifted at the end of the sound bath. And insightfulness, so this was an interesting one, because some people actually felt as though they'd gained insight into problems or situations that had been previously bothering them, and that was really quite a turning point for us in our method, because it helped us to be able to use the 5 R's process to frame up the session so that people could get more insight into something that could be bothering them when they were in that slightly between the worlds space. Disembodiment again, so did that kind of floating feeling, being out of their body. We didn't have anybody report that they had particularly had an out-of-body experience, but certainly, you know, they felt as though they were kind of bigger than themselves, if you like. And unity, which is an amazing thing to have. It's that greater connection to something other than oneself, something bigger than. So when it comes to the active sessions that we do, the participative sessions, a lot of the work that we do within the community to help with sort of communication and conflict resolution and things like that, the unity sort of aspect comes in quite well there. So just very briefly, because I know that time is a bit short now. So this is, if you're into statistics, basically what we're looking for is anything, a number, a p-value that's less than 0.05. So if it's less than 0.05, it's extremely statistically significant. So I'll just quickly go down. So worrying thoughts disappeared, profound peace and tranquility within, muscles felt relaxed, conflicts and contradictions seemed to dissolve, breathing felt relaxed and steady, physical tension drained from my body, physical pain disappeared. There's on my website, on the British Academy of Sound Therapy website, we go into this in a lot more detail. And so potential therapeutic application, of course, pain relief, management and control, pain control, muscle tension, mental health, emotional distress and trauma, mindfulness and stress reduction, because people, you know, being mindful of it's great for reducing stress and increasing that self-awareness, emotional intelligence and reflective thinking, blood pressure, heart rate and any stress-related dis-ease, of which, as we know, there's lots. It's a huge category. So participative sessions, we do a lot of work within the community. That particular piece of research was based on passive sessions, so sound baths, people coming in and laying down. This is, I just wanted to touch on this. We're actually doing 8 different research projects this year based on participative exercises. So there'll be more to report. So we do things like sonic art and soundscapes. We do lovely things, voice improvisations, and all people get to put together songs without words and all lovely kinds of things. vocal expression, communication and release, community music making, using specific techniques for specific things. So we could be working with motor control, we could be working with Parkinson's. We're about to do a study using rhythm and Parkinson's. Initial studies show that if you can actually help with gait training, using rhythm training with people with Parkinson's. So we're looking forward to doing that. And then exploring limiting beliefs. So we have a particular method which is about reframing limiting belief and unhelpful personal narratives. So that's really particularly helpful for people who have a belief that, you know, I'm just not good enough, I'm never going to be successful, or PTSD, or particular sort of very closed mindsets as well. We have a way of actually helping to reframe it by using the 5 R's method and sound. Okay, what's next? Basically, we've got a cutting edge music protocol that's happening, which is playing now. So that's called, I hope it's not too loud for you. I mean, the speaker's hidden underneath your phone, your lovely faces. So I'm just trying to control that. Okay, so consciously designed music, or CDM, is a hybrid of therapeutic sound, neuroscience, music psychology and music. So it's a special program that we're working on now. We've just finished doing some research on sleep, which is we've designed a track which is basically going to be featured on the BBC World Series health program shortly. So there's some new research coming out there. On the back of the research that we've done over the years with this music, we've got a new music program called Life Sonics, which is coming out, which we're hoping will also going to release some music for the therapy room as well. And we've got our research projects going on. And we're going into the arts for health and well-being, which is a really exciting area actually, which I'm sure many of you are working in within the holistic health field. It's a big burgeoning area. So that's kind of what we're up to at the Academy going forward, and in therapeutic sound as a whole as well. It's a very, very exciting kind of way of working at the moment, area to work in, as I'm sure you are finding as well. There's a lot more research available and a lot more exciting things going on in the field. So this is just me. There's a free course online for anybody that wants to dip in a bit more. healthysound.learnupon.com/store. So that give you a little bit of a more information. There's a 10% discount for all BCMA members signing up on a course by the end of the month using that code. And please email me if you want to get in touch or have a look on our website. And check me out as well. We've got music tracks on Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, Google Music. Just do a search for me and you'll find the sleep track up there, as well as others if you want to use them in your therapy room, and let me know what you think. I'll be really very interested to hear what you think. So I've kind of whizzled through that last bit, so thank you for hanging in there with me, and I'm sorry if it was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but I wanted to give enough time just for a few questions if there are any.
Liz,
to do now. Yes.
Liz, click on the screen at the top of your screen. If you go to the top of your screen, you click on the view options, you'll be able to come out of, you'll be able to...
So do I do stop share?
Stop share, yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'll change the view to everybody. and I'll unmute everybody. So, okay, so now question time. Everybody ask Liz whatever your questions are.
I'll brace myself.
That was really interesting, Liz.
Thank you.
Yeah, I found that quite a nice subject, and when you asked us to close our eyes, I experienced a lot of things and quite calm after it. And because I don't know if anybody noticed, I started yawning. So usually when I do that, that means I'm quite, whatever I've done, I'm quite calm.
Excellent. Well, that's
good.
Tiny little piece of sound. That's good work there.
Yeah.
Exactly. I couldn't hear the sounds was very distorted that first 2 minutes, so I couldn't go anywhere with it. It kept stopping and starting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I couldn't sort of get into it. It didn't sound like a Himalayan bowl. I don't know. It sounded, but it didn't. So it didn't do it for me. So
Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand that.
I go with music really quick, but I couldn't with that. It was,
Yeah. I think it just depends on the broadband speed and.
I will go on. So I will go on Spotify. I'm a great Spotify girl.
Yeah, do.
And
Absolutely.
I'll go on and see. Maybe I can probably hear it better or whatever's on there then.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
And the sleep track.
Yes.
Is that what it's called?
It's actually called. There's two. There's one called. They're both called Somnus. And one's called Somnus V, which is 5 minutes long, and Somnus X is 10 minutes long. And I've been told that there are some people who just have it on loop. They've said that some of the feedback from the research was it's not long enough, so we need to create a Somnus. I don't know my Roman numerals that well, but a Somnus 30 minutes long. XXX or whatever it'll be. That could be naughty though.
Half an hour would be good for a treatment on someone.
It wouldn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Get into it in 5 minutes and it'll stop.
Yeah, that's
We
it.
want them to keep going with it. So yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're going to be doing very shortly is creating some playlists for the therapy rooms. So there is actually consciously designed music that will be so many minutes long and for different things. So there'll be some which take people in a bit deeper and then start to bring them out again towards the end. And there'll be others which are more uplifting and some which are more relaxing. So we will be bringing those out. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
This year, will that be?
Yeah, that's going to be within the next month. Yeah.
So what will we only know about it if we go on your site?
Yeah.
Or will it be up on the general,
Yeah, so all you need to do is when you go to Spotify is actually follow me.
Okay.
And then what will happen is you'll get a little notification with any new track or anything we load up. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay.
Liz, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you know a lot about 4-3 hertz? There's a lot of videos online, say that if you listen to the music, say for 30 days, say, that it does affect things. Have you had much experience, or is that something you can comment on?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment there's no actual evidence that it actually. I know that there are people that subscribe to it, and say that it's helped them, but there isn't actually any evidence at the moment that a specific frequency is going to have that effect. So yeah, I think it's just whether it does it for you, really, but there's nothing at the moment that we know of to suggest that it alters the brain in any particular way. Yeah.
Whereas the studies that you've done on what you've demonstrated this evening, that's weighted by evidence that you have. Yes? Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
We haven't done fMRI scans or MRI scans or EEG traces, but we use peer-reviewed questionnaires that are designed to, so they're basically consciousness questionnaires that have been designed, over the years. We use a hybrid questionnaire that's peer-reviewed, but that's sort of changed to suit what we're looking for, basically. That we of signs that we know that a brain is, as much as we can know, gone into a particular state, if that makes sense.
And that's through questionnaires.
Yeah.
How you felt, like what you did with us for a few seconds, but you have values put against them called p-values. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So
and that's measured.
Yeah, so they're measured. So basically, the way we landed on that particular piece of research was there are clinical trials that are done on altered state therapy using hallucinogenics. So they're done in a controlled setting with magic mushrooms or MDMA, and they've been doing those a lot, since there was a big lot of interest in the 70s and 80s, and it's just started they've just started to start those trials again because it's so effective in various different areas of mental health, as well as chronic pain. So they're looking into that now, and so we use the questionnaires that are used in those clinical settings, a version of those questionnaires. So they're reliable, they give us reliable data, in basically how deep a person could be in an altered state, and we use quite large sample sizes, so we're able to get fairly reliable data, as much as we could, without actually wiring each person up to an EEG. Yeah.
How long is the questionnaire? How many pages, for instance, or questions does it have, just to give a gauge?
The long version's got 65 questions, so it's quite long. Yeah, but
so it's reference and cross-reference.
Sorry,
so, it's referenced and cross-referenced, so you'll maybe ask the same question in a different manner.
That's it.
I get it. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So there are different questions within a domain. So it's all asked in different ways, but within a particular domain. So whether we're looking for time and space, or mystical experience, or pain or something, it'll be the same question will be asked in several different ways. Yeah.
And what you do is there is a qualification for being a sound therapist.
Yes, that's right. Yes. So at the Academy we run 7 different qualifications, depending on whether you're looking to be a one-to-one therapist, a practitioner, or whether you're looking to do arts work with groups, or voice work. So yeah, we've got lots of different courses.
And how long does that process take?
It depends on what you're doing, what course you're wanting to do. So, for example, a course on the arts and group work could be 9 to 12 months. And if you're looking for practitioner training, then you could be 12 to 18 months.
I've got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to ask you so many questions.
No, it's great. Questions are good. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are there any more questions? No? So,
thank you.
So Liz, thank you very much. That was really interesting.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm just sorry about the glitch in the beginning. I pressed the green button. It just didn't open up for something. So I hope I hope you can edit that bit. If not, I'll see if I can help.
I'm not doing the editing this time around. Tracy is. So
excellent.
Yeah. So I'm going to thank all of you for coming along. It's been a really pleasant evening.
Thank you,
and
Colin.
hopefully we'll see you again.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Good night.